Good day, friends. Hello. Welcome back to our Chaia series of faith reflections on life and light on the basis of the biblical text that we are examining in each episode. But before I proceed, may I once again acknowledge the team that has been helping me a lot in making possible each of the episodes we are able to share with you. At the camera before me is Miss Twinny Alpuerto, making sure that I have the best possible angle and frame and lighting each recording time. Pastor John Alpuerto had helped us a lot in doing the crucial editing task for each episode in the earlier episodes that we had, in spite of her very busy schedule at the Silliman University Church. So we thank very much Pastor John and now Twinny. Without them, this will not be possible at all. That is why every time you send a like or subscribe or share to your friends each episode of our Chaia series, you're also giving due appreciation to their valuable contribution to this project. So today, we have episode 17 of our series. And today we focus on a short story involving an incident in the life of the twin brothers Esau and Jacob, sons of Isaac and Rebekah. We know from the previous episode that Isaac was the heir to the promise given by God to Abraham for him to be the father of a great nation. Isaac, therefore, provides the continuation, the line that will continue this promise from father to son. Isaac then took for his wife the beautiful and smart Aramean lady, Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel, who is a nephew of Abraham. Rebekah would then be the mother of Jacob, the one who will carry on the line of the divine promise towards its fulfillment. A little complication arose, however, when Rebekah gave birth to twins, and the first of these twins came out of her womb is Esau, whose name was derived from his being red, for his little body was filled with that red hairy growth when he came out. And you know, the people who would descend from Esau would later on be known as the Edomites, from Edom, which means red. But a few moments later, during the birth process, his younger brother came out gripping Esau's heels. So they named him Yaakov, meaning one who takes by the heel, or he who supplants. And so the two boys grew up together. Each of them, however, pursued different interests. Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the field who finds joy in hunting down animals that he can bring as food for his parents, especially his father Isaac, who happened to be so fond of his son Esau and so fond of game that Esau would bring to him. That is why Isaac really loves Esau very much, because of the game and choice products of his hunting. On the other hand, Rebekah loved Jacob, who grew up to be a quiet man, preferring to just stay in the tent and cook food for his parents. Now, one day, Esau came back from the field very hungry, tired and famished. He saw his brother Jacob cooking stew and readily asked him to let him partake, eat of what Jacob is preparing. But then Jacob said to his brother, "Well, sell me first your birthright." Friends, what is happening here? What is this birthright that Jacob is asking his brother Esau to sell to him as a condition to giving him a serving of the food that he is cooking, which is mere stew or pottage? How important is this birthright? You know, in those times, birthright is a sacred, very important status being accorded to the firstborn in the family. By virtue of this birthright, the firstborn acquires the right to inherit not just the possessions and wealth of the father, he also inherits the authority of the father. That is the right to make decisions and govern the affairs of the family. The moment the father dies, the firstborn gets double the share of the inheritance from the father. If the father has more than one son, the other sons will have their own share of the inheritance. But the firstborn will receive double the portion of the shares received by the other sons, along with the power and authority of the deceased father. And so we come to the main focus of our reflection today, which is this encounter between the twin brothers Esau asking for food from his brother Jacob. While Jacob is demanding that Esau should first give up his birthright and turn it over to him in return for the stew that he is going to give to his brother. Now we know the value of this birthright and why Jacob was asking for it as the price of the simple stew that Esau wants to appease to his anger, his hunger. Well, it seems we have here a demonstration of how we want to satisfy the basic needs in our life, like the food, the need for food. And we may ask the question, do we allow our basic human needs to govern our decision making? Or do we decide on the basis of clever manipulation of those who are vulnerable? Clearly, Jacob is cleverly taking advantage of the hunger of his own brother to extract from him a very sacred right as a firstborn. We are seeing here the early signs of who Jacob really was as a person. He is one who would not have any moral scruples about victimizing his very own brother for the sake of taking over his brother's birthright. In fact, so many are engaged in this kind of exploitative manipulation of the vulnerable, such as the poor and the weak, taking advantage of their own basic needs for survival in order to obtain from them some basic traditional and sacred rights as a people or as a community. And this could include forcing them to give up their prior claims to their ancestral lands or domains, their traditional settlements and habitation, their cherished practices as an indigenous community, all in exchange to having access to food, water, and other needs in a time of great starvation. And sometimes a box of canned sardines is all the price that is needed to obtain the rights to a property given up by some groups of indigenous peoples in our country. Victimizing the weak and the vulnerable in moments of their urgent and desperate need for life-sustaining provisions has become a commonplace occurrence, even in our time. But when it comes to this story of Jacob, we can discern some profound meaning that is emerging here. We can see that in this morally questionable act of Jacob, it is something immoral, questionable, in his victimizing of his own brother. He was unknowingly fulfilling already the purposes of God. These purposes of God were already announced and given prior notice when both Esau and Jacob were still in the womb of Rebekah, that the elder shall serve the younger. The shift in the possession of the birthright, even through a highly manipulative and oppressive manner, is already the first step towards the fulfillment of the promise and purposes of God. Friends, the way God moves does not necessarily follow family traditions of succession and inheritance rights. God does not give any value to the rights of the firstborn. God chooses regardless of standing in the family, starting from Abel and Cain and Seth. It is not Cain, the eldest, who would carry on towards fulfillment of the purposes of God. It is the youngest, Seth, from whom humankind descended and evolved into families and nations. David was not the eldest in the family of Jesse. He was actually the youngest of the 8 sons, but he emerged as the one specially chosen by God to be the recipient of a new and gracious favor of God that will empower him to establish a great kingdom that would never be equaled by any other king that followed him. David the shepherd and youngest son of Jesse reached such a status of power, fame, glory, and success in his time that he became the embodiment of the kind of Messiah that Israel had been waiting for. Thus, for God, the place of a child in the family line, is not the issue, nor a basis for the granting of any call or responsibility. God calls whom he wants to call, regardless of the kind of person he is. But again, here we are with Esau demanding immediate solution to his problem of hunger, to the point that he is now willing and eager to give up even a priceless status that he was born with. Perhaps we can see here the deep contrast between the two brothers and the contrast between two attitudes among peoples. There is this contrast between those who are going through serious material deprivation and are willing to compromise, sell, and even denounce and despise and give up what is equivalent to their birthright. Esau is hungry and just cannot wait. Jacob is there cooking and is willing to wait, and he seems to be not that hungry. But Esau is so desperate, he is willing to give up just anything to satisfy his hunger at the moment. Indeed, there are those who cannot wait in their desire to immediately grab and take hold and consume right at once the material blessings they believe is just right there, ready for the picking. But material blessings may not just be referring to food alone. The stew or the pottage could be anything that gives us very temporary satiation of our cravings and desire for satisfaction of our material wants. It could be our desire not just for abundance of food we can partake to prevent us from being hungry anymore. It could refer also to our own hunger and desire for power, position, wealth, privilege, which all provide very temporary, short-lived satisfaction of our desires. There are those who remain too eager to just take over and control and establish power over some material blessings they believe are available for use and consumption for their immediate satisfaction and pleasure. But there are those who are willing to wait. Material blessings are made available to us and to everyone, not as something we can always grab, take, seize, and control and manage, as if we have suddenly become the owners of such material blessings. Let us remember all the blessings we receive each day, starting with the material ones that sustain us each day. These are all gifts to be received with gratitude, with humility, not as privileged provisions we can demand and take control of. Otherwise, it will be as if God owes it to us to supply them all to us on a regular basis, as if we have become owners and God has become our steward and caretaker, as if we are the ones controlling the disposition of such material resources and can always have the right to use them for our own advantage and self-advancement. These are the people who cannot wait. Gigil na gigil, like Esau. For them, the satisfaction of present needs and desires is all that matters. Perhaps being the older one, the one supposedly born to rank and right, he assumes that using his rank, he can have things under control. This could be people who have prior privileged positions and rights, like those elected to positions of power and authority in institutions of government and church. For these people, the promises of God for the future has no meaning. For them, it is only the present needs, present desires, and cravings that matter and that need to be satisfied right at once. In truth, however, what they are craving for are nothing more than pottage or stew in its actual value. For them, the future has become closed. For people like Jacob, the younger brother, who is willing to wait, they are the ones who are capable of putting their hope and reliance in the promise of a truly new future for those who trust in the trustworthiness of such promise and the promise giver. Jacob may not be the perfect model of one who is willing to wait. He may not be the paradigm of a morally and spiritually ideal person to be called and used by God for his divine purposes. But in this instance, he proved to be one who is simply willing to wait and take his time. He knows that stew or pottage can only give very temporary satiation of hunger. He knows he can cook another set of pottage in case Esau will consume it all. He knows he has already gotten from Esau a far greater bargain than the stew that he had allowed his brother to consume. This is a very profound lesson for us and for those who do not believe in the promises of God, but simply would want more and more and immediate satisfaction of what they crave for. The call for us at this moment is to believe and trust in the promises of God as they are now embodied and given fulfillment in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. It is to allow our life to be shaped and challenged more by the vision of those promises, and always to withstand those alternative and very attractive forms of pottage or stew, which may be offered to us as something that is already available and accessible for our control. Let us beware lest we fall to the temptation of Esau. Thank you very much, and I hope you have been blessed by this reflection. And if so, please do share this to your friends and click like and continue with your subscription of this our Chaia program. For our next episode, you may read ahead the story of Jacob's encounter with God in his dream in Genesis 28, verses 10 to 22. And so thank you once again. God bless you all.